What if the symptom isn't a problem, but the clue? What if fatigue, brain fog, hormonal chaos, inflammation, and gut disruption are not random at all, but patterned communication your body has been trying to send you for years? Medicine was taught to listen for isolated symptoms, but I listen to the whole symphony. Women are being told they're fine, everything is normal, while their bodies are quietly fighting to keep up. I'm Dr. Julie Lynn, founder of the system-based pattern mapping solution, and I decode what others miss: hidden physiological patterns buried beneath normal labs, unexplained symptoms, and years of frustration. This channel is where mystery becomes clarity, clarity becomes power. If this sounds like your healing journey so far, welcome to the channel. And when you're ready, bring me your normal labs and I'll show you what they're missing.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Julie Lynn, founder of the systems-based pattern mapping solution, and I help women take the mystery out of their mystery symptoms by identifying the physiological patterns hidden beneath normal labs. This week's pattern spotlight is the thyroid pattern, because there are millions and millions of women walking around right now with normal thyroid tests but still don't feel like themselves. And all week we've been talking about something that I think so many of you know very, very well. What happens when you know something has changed in your body but nobody can explain why? Today I want to show you what I mean when I say put all of the pieces to the puzzle on the table, because there's one sentence I hear from my clients all the time: they checked my thyroid, it was normal. And usually that's not the end of the story. It's actually the beginning, because then the client will go on to tell me, I'm exhausted, I'm freezing all the time, my hair isn't the same, maybe they're losing hair, my digestion has slowed down, I can't think the way that I used to, and I swear my body has changed. All of that is true, but her thyroid was normal. So now what? That's what we're talking about in today's Friday Pattern Spotlight. First, let's clear something up. If your thyroid test was normal, I'm not telling you that you have a thyroid disorder or thyroid problem. I think this is really important because there's this tendency online to take almost any symptom: fatigue, thyroid; weight changes, thyroid; hair loss, gotta be the thyroid; feeling cold all the time, definitely the thyroid. But bodies aren't that simple. These symptoms can have many possible explanations. So body literacy isn't about taking every symptom and diagnosing yourself from Instagram. It's about becoming better at asking questions. What information do I actually have, and what does it actually tell me? That's a very different perspective. So what does TSH actually tell us? When most women tell me that their thyroid was checked and it was normal, usually they're talking about their TSH. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And interestingly, it's actually produced in the pituitary gland, not the thyroid itself. Think of it as part of the communication between the brain and the thyroid. Your pituitary is essentially signaling to the thyroid about how much thyroid hormone the body actually needs. So, TSH is very useful. But here's where I want you to start thinking about this a little bit differently. One laboratory value is not the same thing as understanding the entire physiological picture. And one number certainly can't explain every possible reason a woman might feel tired, cold, foggy, constipated, and unlike herself. That's where we need the curiosity piece, because the symptoms overlap. Let's take fatigue. Fatigue can show up as thyroid dysfunction, but fatigue can also show up in iron deficiency, sleep problems, nutrient deficiencies, glucose regulation issues, inflammatory conditions, and it can be a side effect from medication use. It can show up in mood disorders and many other things. The same symptom, but many possible explanations. And this is why I don't want women trying to identify a diagnosis from one symptom alone. I want you to recognize something much, much more useful. Symptoms become more informative when we understand their context and the relationships surrounding them. This is where I start putting the pieces together. If you sat across from me and said, I'm exhausted and I'm freezing, my hair has changed, my digestion has slowed down, I can't think the way I used to, but my thyroid test is normal, I'm going to start asking very different questions. When did it begin? Do these symptoms show up together? What changed before you noticed them? What medication are you taking? What does the rest of the history look like? What laboratory test has actually been done? Was it only the TSH? What does your CBC look like as a whole? What about iron status? What about other metabolic and nutritional information do we have or do we need? Now we're no longer chasing one symptom and we're no longer chasing one number. We're looking at the full picture, and that's the difference. So, what is the thyroid pattern? When I talk about the thyroid pattern in the systems-based pattern mapping, I'm talking about the collection of clues that make thyroid physiology one of those areas worth considering in the bigger picture. That might include things like changes in energy, your temperature tolerance, hair and skin health, bowel habits, weight loss, menstrual patterns, and relevant laboratory findings. But no individual symptom proves thyroid dysfunction. And even a cluster doesn't automatically establish it either. It gives us direction. And I think that's a huge part of body literacy, because normal should give us information, not end the conversation. And yes, normal labs can be reassuring. Sometimes they help us rule things out. Sometimes they tell us where we need to look deeper. And sometimes they tell us we're looking in the wrong direction. It's all useful information. Maybe the thyroid isn't the explanation. Then the question becomes, what else should we be considering? That's where systems thinking becomes so valuable, because instead of trying to force every single symptom into that thyroid box, we widen the lens. So if you've been told that your thyroid is normal, but you still feel unlike yourself, and don't automatically decide that your symptoms don't matter. And if you're thinking, okay, Julie, but I have a whole list of symptoms and labs, and I have absolutely no idea what any of them mean together. That's exactly why I created my Reveal pattern analysis. Bring me all of the pieces, and we'll start looking at the picture together. A systems-based pattern lens, but to help you understand what patterns may be worth exploring and what questions we need to ask next. Because I want you to understand the language of your body and what it has been trying to tell you. Again, I'm Dr. Julie Lynn, and I appreciate you watching this video. Be sure to check back next week for another Friday Pattern Spotlight. And if you would like to learn more about how we can put all of the pieces together and finally get you the clarity that you deserve and a clear path forward, click the link in my bio. Thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks again for joining me for today's episode. If you want to stay up to date on all the new episodes as they drop, be sure to like and follow. If you know someone who could benefit from this information, please share this episode with them. If you want to learn more about my systems-based pattern mapping solution, I'll leave all the links in the show notes so we can connect. Again, thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.